As we close the year 2025, it is clear that macro, small and medium enterprises remain the backbone of the Nigerian economy, according to data. MSMEs, which account for over 96% of all businesses in Nigeria, contribute about approximately 46 to 50% to the gross domestic product and provide employment to more than 84% of the workforce. This figures emphasizes their vital role in driving job creation, innovation, and inclusive growth under the renewed hope agenda of the Tinubu administration. Well, we have in the House advisor to the President on Job Creation and MSMEs in the Office of the Vice President, Temitola Adekunle Johnson, who is going to help us review MSMEs in the year 2025. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, as we reflect on 2025, what in your view have been the key achievements of the Tinubu administration in supporting MSMEs this year, particularly through initiatives like the $200 billion intervention fund and expanded national MSMEs clinics?
Okay, so recall that immediately after the oil subsidy cancellation, the president approved the 200 billion stimulus support for the small business in space. Now, for the first time, we had 75 billion for manufacturing industry. It meant that if you're a manufacturer and you needed to expand your business, you could access as much as $1 billion to the tune of $1 billion for 3 to 5 years, and most importantly, at a single-digit interest rate of 9%. Then we also had MSMEs who could collect up to $1 million within the same scheme. $1 million, but after 6 months of implementation by the implementing agency was Bank of Industry for this particular scheme. The feedback was that MSMEs needed to scale up the obligor. So Mr. President graciously approved further funding to the tune of 5 million naira to an MSMEs. So what it meant was that the MSMEs could now collect 5 million naira loan at 9% for a tenure of between 3 and adjustable to 5 years tenure from the Bank of Industry. This has really helped a lot of SMEs to scale. And within the purview of the National MSME Clinic, we recall that the expanded MSME Clinic, it's like it's what we refer to as boots on ground sort of scheme. That's the scheme that brings virtually every agency and ministry that regulates the affairs of SMEs together. We move into a state. Mr. President has directed Vice President to go into every state. We move into a state in partnership with the state government, asking SMEs how we can support as federal. Whilst doing this, we also give them grants. President approved a grant of 250,000 naira each to outstanding SMEs. Now, we can easily sit down in Abuja and assume that the issue an SME faces in Lagos is the same an SME in Enugu faces. But the MSME Clinic made us realize that sometimes some of the issues differ. You know, when we're in, I think it was Enugu, we had realized that most of the issues that were raised in Enugu had to do with power. It meant that what they said was that when you give us power, access to funding is not a major issue with us.
So how were you able to address that?
So for that, what we did was that we gave them a facility. We gave them a fashion hub and ICT facility, and we ensure that those facilities are solar paneled. And we are in discussion with the state government to see if we can bring the different MSME clusters together and provide solar that guaranteed solar power for at least 8 hours a day for them. So this and the fact that we now have the likes of DBN, you know, they just at the tail end of the year they just signed a $500 million facility to support SME expansion, you know, in their different spheres. It means that DBN will use this funding to guarantee SMEs. If you want to collect a facility, and the DBN is able to help use this fund to guarantee you, meaning that where we used to have maybe hundreds of SMEs collect facilities before, now we can have as much as hundreds of thousands of SMEs have guaranteed access to loans.
So, sorry, the issue of power, you talked about power, that this particular region has this issue of power. But could it be, I mean, I think the same thing applies to other parts of the country as well, because when you look at the cost of power now, it's not just about the availability of power. The cost of power now, it's really an issue for a lot of MSMEs, and most especially when you talk about ease of doing business. A lot of MSMEs tend to actually, confront such challenge. Is it something that you're actually looking at closely to see how you can address it, not just in that other part of the country, but every other part of the country?
As you may be aware, that the Ministry of Power through the minister are urgently addressing that. I was just stating an example that when we got to that region, the MSMEs made it known to us that in order of priority, access to funding was secondary. In their own, they placed regular power as their number one priority. Whilst in a lot of other states, it was access to funding. Like you said, and rightly noted, power is important for every business and every locality in the country. So we understand that the ministry, through the Minister of Power, have strongly and seriously working on to ensure that every nook and cranny of the country has regular power supply.
So what do you make of the feedback that you have received so far, looking at so much that has been injected through interventions, and how you could possibly, or how the country, could possibly continuously to support MSMEs? What were the feedbacks besides power? You mentioned the issue of power.
Now, one of the feedback that we got that was very instrumental to one of the other schemes we went to design after the feedback series was that SMEs domiciled in different states needed to be guaranteed these funds, and some of them did not want little grants. They called it little grants. What they wanted is that they wanted a situation where they can walk into banks and collect a fund at a very reasonable rate they were willing to pay. So it was this feedback that made us come up with the de-risking fund for SMEs. This partnership with the federal government, our commercial partners, and the federal government DFIs as well. Where a state we match any of our financial partners with a certain fund. Like Lagos State government matched the federal matched one of our partners with 10 billion, which guarantees SMEs in Lagos that they will collect a facility and it will be guaranteed 9%. So in that case, you regulate whether you want to give them 5 million, you want to give them 10 million, you want to give them 3 million, but the guarantee is that it's at 3 million. We know that Cross River has gone the same route. The governor of Imo State has done the same thing. A number of other states are following suit. Katsina State governor did 5 billion naira. A number of other governors are following suit. We know that there are a lot of MOUs to be signed in the month of January. That has helped us at least to say that whilst we are waiting for the federal government to come up with a big chunk of some of the schemes, the states themselves are starting seizing the initiative to ensure that MSMEs in their states actually have access to funding, not just access to funding at the right tenure and at the right interest.
Okay. Now, this year's National MSMEs Awards featured international participants for the first time. Actually, what informed that expansion, and what value did it somehow bring to small-scale or local entrepreneurs? So,
for the MSME Awards this year, what we did was it was in partnership with the African Union, because most times we exchange notes when we go to represent either Mr. President or Mr. Vice President at different firms. We exchange notes. So I think we're in the room somewhere. I cannot recall what conference we were in with a few ministers and maybe advisors of some of the other presidents of other countries in Africa, and we realized that some of our issues are actually similar. So we decided that we will form a forum to we'll look for a forum where we can cooperate. I mean, from time to time, compare notes. What are you doing right, and how are you doing it, and how can we tap into what you're doing? You understand? So that's we informed the collaboration with African Union to host the first MSME awards this year with African Union, and gave us houses, cars, shops to MSMEs. Because what the president had said, that he wanted us to start living something in the minds of these SMEs. I mean, we gave out houses to some SMEs. Some of them have shops, because we are giving them what is practical. Yeah. Now, as a small business owner, I think if you are giving a shop, or a store, it's leaves something in your mind that, okay, because that's where you operate your business. Even if you are not operating your business there, you can rent it out, so you get some form of value for it, basically.
Now, access to finance remains a major challenge, despite the fact that we've seen various interventions. Now, with high lending rates previously at 28 to 30%, with the plan, the Risking Fund and recent World Bank support of $500 million for inclusive finance, how has this improved credit availability for MSMEs in 2025?
Okay, so the feedback so far, in short, last quarter this year, what the Bank of Industry did, the fund that the federal government approved, we reached out to them, wanted a data of how many SMEs were able to access those funds. And once we saw the number of those that applied and were not approved, we sat down with the management, and they decided to go on a series of clinics with those that applied for those funds and were not approved, telling them this way. For instance, if you needed to take 4 or 5 boxes to get approved, you take 3, or you take 3.5. If you had gone a step further by doing X, Y, Z, your approval will have been green, not amber or not red. So what that now did was that it now brought a lot more people into the data that have been approved, and we're only hoping that within the first quarter of 2026, our projections are that we'll have an increase in the number of SMEs that will be approved for facilities. So we're working with some of the DFIs and commercial banks to double down on some of the criteria that they will require for these SMEs to meet before being granted these facilities, whilst also speaking to the MSMEs themselves that you need to work on yourself, make sure you have bankable projects or bankable proposals to be able to access this funding. So it is a collaborative effort between the government, the private sector, and some of our DFIs. But we are very positive that 2026, within the first quarter, max half the first 6 months of the year, we'll have turned the corner.
Well, with that, tell us your projection of MSMEs in 2026. Your projection on MSMEs in 2026. Yeah,
the projection in 2026 is that first things first, that almost every MSME that has the capacity and has the willingness will be able to walk into a facility, a commercial bank, a government DFI, collect a facility to whatever tone they need it, and use it to expand their businesses, thereby leading to more job employment.
Okay. Now, before I let you go, just tell us what you make of the new tax laws, because that's what a lot of Nigerians are talking about, most especially MSMEs. How will that impact on them?
As a matter of fact, if we are going to spend the entire January sensitizing our MSMEs on the new tax laws. Yeah. A lot of them have been misinformed, and maybe whether deliberately or not, that the tax law is going to affect their businesses. There are aspects of the tax law that protects small businesses. There are aspects of it that they need to be aware of, basically. So we are going to spend the entire January sensitizing MSMEs across the country, so that everyone is aware of what benefits the new tax law will bring to them and their businesses.
Okay, Mr. Temitola Adekunle Johnson, it's been a pleasure having you in the program.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.